President Bola Tinubu has condemned the unprovoked killing of military personnel during a rescue mission to Okwoma community, Ughelli South local government area of Delta State. The troops responding to a crisis between Okwoma and Okoloba communities in Delta State were ambushed, and a commanding officer, 2 majors, 1 captain, and 12 soldiers, as well as 1 civilian, were killed. The president, in a statement he personally signed, joined well-meaning Nigerians, particularly families of the fallen heroes, as well as the men and women of the armed forces, to express his grief over the needless deaths of the gallant soldiers. He said the military high command is already responding to the incident, adding that the cowardly offenders responsible for the heinous crime will not go unpunished. The president wants Nigerians to constantly remember and honor those who have paid the ultimate price to keep the country safe, strong and united. Members of our armed forces, he said, are at the heart and core of nationhood. Hence, any attack on them is a direct attack on the nation, which will not be accepted. The Defense Headquarters and Chief of Defense Staff have been granted full authority to bring to justice anybody found to have been responsible for this unconscionable crime against the Nigerian people. Russian President Vladimir Putin is poised to extend a nearly quarter-century rule for 6 more years after wrapping up an election that gave voters no real alternatives. Justin Bemunyi tells us more.
The 3-day election that began Friday has taken place in a tightly controlled environment where no public criticism of Putin or his war in Ukraine is allowed. Putin's fiercest political foe, Alexei Navalny, died in an Arctic prison last month, and other critics are either in jail or in exile. The 71-year-old Russian leader faces 3 token rivals from Kremlin-friendly parties who have refrained from any criticism of his 24-year rule or his full-scale invasion of Ukraine for 2 years ago. Putin has boasted of Russian battlefield successes in the run-up to the vote, but a massive Ukrainian drone attack across Russia early Sunday sent a reminder of challenges faced by Moscow. The Russian Defense Ministry reported downing 35 Ukrainian drones overnight, including 4 near the Russian capital. Moscow's mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, said there were no casualties or damage. Russia's wartime economy has proven resilient, expanding despite Western sanctions. The Russian defense industry has served as a key growth engine, working around the clock to produce missiles, tanks, and ammunition. Russia's scattered opposition has urged those unhappy with Putin or the war to express their protest by coming to the polls at noon on Sunday. The strategy was endorsed by Navalny not long before his death. Voting is taking place at polling stations across the vast country's 11 time zones in annexed regions of Ukraine and online. Despite tight controls, at least half a dozen cases of vandalism at polling stations were reported Friday and Saturday. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
In the meantime, Russia's defense ministry says its forces have destroyed dozens of drones in several regions across the country, including Moscow. The biggest attack happened in the southern Russian region of Krasnodar, where an oil refinery was targeted. The attacks come as Russia holds a general election in which President Vladimir Putin is guaranteed to win. In Ukraine, officials reported an overnight barrage of Russian drones and missiles on the port city of Odessa. The Ukrainian governor of the northeastern city of Kharkiv said 15 settlements had been shelled by Russia over the past 24 hours. In Russia, authorities said 17 drones had been launched against an oil refinery and had been neutralized, but 1 sparked a fire as it fell. Elsewhere, Niger's junta, in power since July, has revoked the military cooperation agreement signed in 2012 with the United States. A spokesperson for the transitional government, Colonel Major Amadou Abdraman, in a statement, read on public television, said its presence in Nigerian territory is legal. Details with Justin Bemuni.
The Nigerian spokesperson describing U.S. presence in the country as illegal said it violated all constitutional and democratic rules. The statement says, and I quote, "The government of Niger, taking into account the aspirations and interests of its people, decides with full responsibility to terminate with immediate effect the agreement relating to the status of U.S. military personnel and civilian employees of the U.S. Department of Defense on Nigerian territory." End of quote. The spokesman added that the agreement signed with the U.S. was unilaterally imposed through a simple verbal note in June 2012. He also described the agreement as not only unfair, but that it did not respond to the aspirations and interests of the Nigerian people. The decision comes a few days after the visit to Niamey of a U.S. delegation led by U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molefi. The Nigerian government spokesperson says the U.S. delegation's visit did not follow diplomatic protocol and the transitional government was informed unilaterally of its arrival. He also slammed the arrogant attitude of the head of the delegation, as well as refuted allegations about Niger's signing of a uranium deal with Iran. The Nigerian government defended the transparent nature of its cooperation with Iran and Russia, two countries that is said the focus of interest of the U.S. delegation during its visit to Niamey, after seizing power following a coup overthrowing President Mohamed Bazoum July last year. The military junta in Niger revoked the military agreements it had signed with France. Justin Bemuni, NTA News.
The United States State Department has announced a charter flight for its citizens stranded in Haiti as gang violence and hunger grip the impoverished country. Police in the capital, Port-au-Prince, are trying to recapture areas held by notorious gang leader Jimmy Cherizier. Cherizier, known as Barbecue, has a stronghold in the Delmas neighborhood, and police are trying to arrest him. On Saturday, police spokesman Lionel Lazare said several bandits had been killed in the operation. The situation for ordinary Haitians remains precarious, while many embassies and consulates are airlifting their citizens out. On Saturday, stranded Americans were told by the State Department a charter flight would depart from Cap Haitien, a port city about 120 miles from Port-au-Prince. However, the State Department said only U.S. citizens with valid visas would be allowed to travel, and the flight would only go ahead if the situation at Cap Haitien remains stable. In the meantime, a state of emergency has been declared in southern Iceland because of another volcanic eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula, the fourth since December. It is thought to be the most powerful flare-up so far. Lava has reached the eastern defenses around the evacuation town of Grindavik, local media said. People have also been moved from the nearby Blue Lagoon, one of Iceland's most popular tourist attractions. According to the country's civil defense service, the eruption began after 8 p.m. local time on Saturday, north of Grindavik. Footage of the explosion showed clouds of smoke and glowing magma oozing and bubbling from vents in the earth. Tunisian authorities have announced that they have stalled 17 irregular migration operations and rescued 587 migrants of sub-Saharan African nationalities and Tunisians on their way to Europe. The Tunisian National Guard said in a statement that the naval units of the National Guard in the Sfax region were able to stop 14 crossings of the maritime border and rescue 544 passers-by, including 4 Tunisians. The authorities also arrested 10 wanted persons, including organizers and mediators, in addition to seizing 2 boats, 2 rubber boats, 13 marine engines, a light truck, and a motorcycle used for transportation. Marine units of the National Guard in El Hawaria in Nabuel governorates in the northeast of the country were also able to foil an operation to cross the maritime border and rescue 30 Tunisian crossers, including 6 women and 7 children. Marine Guard units in Monastir, east of the country, also prevented an attempt to cross the maritime border and arrested a group of illegal immigrants preparing to cross the maritime border. For years, the Tunisian coast has witnessed a large flow of illegal immigrants wishing to reach the southern coasts of European Union countries. Illegal migration operations resulted in thousands of people drowning, according to statistics from the International Organization for Migration. Now, the world's biggest vaccine maker will start rolling out a cheap new malaria inoculation in Africa in May to strengthen the fight against one of the most deadly infectious diseases globally. The mosquito-borne malady kills more than 600,000 people a year, 95% of them in Africa, according to the World Health Organization. Reports say it is more fatal among the young, and the annual toll of malaria deaths includes nearly 500,000 African children less than aged 5. The Serum Institute of India this year plans to ship 25 million doses of the new vaccine known as R21, developed alongside researchers of the Oxford University. SII's chief executive, Adar Poonawalla, says in terms of importance and saving lives, it is going to be a hugely impactful vaccine. He affirmed that the institute offered these vaccines to the African continent at $4 or less in the first year and may bring it down little as they scale up production. The R21 vaccine, a 3-dose course and booster shot for children from 36 months to 5 years, is the second malaria shot approved by the WHO. The WHO says its rollout is expected to greatly expand supply to meet high demand from African countries. The international president of the Rotary Club, Gordon McNally, says no woman should be allowed to die in the process of giving life to another. He said this while interacting with stakeholders and members of the Rotary Club in Abuja to have first-hand knowledge of the impact of the club in the country. Mr. Gordon, who was in the company of wife Heather, stressed the need for postpartum depression and mental health of pregnant women to be taken seriously.
Contribution on mental health. You all know that mental health is a particular passion of mine. It's a particular focus that we are showing this year, and it is such an important aspect of health.
Panel discussion focused on maternal and newborn mental health, health financing, infrastructural development, and family planning.
55% of women at every point in their pregnancy, at any point in their pregnancy or post-pregnancy, within the first year of birth, would experience the depression.
So I think it's important also to tackle it from a holistic way. So whenever there's also planning for disease-specific interventions, to have a broader lens to it, to ensure that we also implement an MSH package rather than specific siloed interventions.
So I would say that the community leaders have great roles, particularly in the areas of advocacy. Every community has its own different cultures, its own norms, its own tradition.
You are watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. We'll take a short break. More reports when we return. Stay with us.
Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, and Voice of Nigeria, VON, cordially invite the general public to its 18th annual Ramadan lecture. Topic: Family Dynamics, Rights and Obligations from the Islamic Perspective. Guest lecturer, Professor Ilyas Usman Ona, Department of Arabic, Nasarawa State University. Chairman of the occasion, His Royal Highness, Honorable Justice Muhammad Sidi Bagi, 1, Emir of Lafiam Baribari. Special guest of honor, Muhammad Idris, Minister of Information and National Orientation. Royal Father of the Day, His Highness Malang Ahmad Nuhu Bammali, Emir of Zazzau. Chief host, His Excellency Malang Ubasani, the Executive Governor, Kaduna State. Hosts, Malang Salihu Abdul Hamid Dembos, Director General NTA. Dr. Muhammad Bulama, Director General FRCN. Malang Jibril Baba Ndachi, Director General VON. Venue, Lumana Multipurpose Center, River Close, off Jabi Road East, off Sultan Road, Kaduna. Date 23rd March 2024. Time 9 a.m. Inshallah. For partnership, advert placement or sponsorship, call 080-3298-9963. Announcer, Organizing Committee.
Thanks for rejoining us. We're still talking health matters as the National Eye Center Kaduna has taken its awareness campaign on World Glaucoma Week to the military personnel at the Nigerian Defense Academy in Kaduna. Haruna Mohammed reports that the aim is to promote preventive measures against this sight-stealing disease.
Glaucoma, often referred as the silent thief of sight, poses a threat to military personnel due to the nature of their duties and the potential for eye injuries in combat zones or training exercise. Against this threat, the National Eye Center has taken its awareness to the military to educate them about the importance of regular eye check.
This have been screened before taken into the academy, but then in the course of work, you see with age, the eyes also has some problems.
It's been projected that by 2030, up to 94 million people will have glaucoma, and then by 2040, over 110 people will have glaucoma. That's the estimate, global estimate.
Deputy Commandant, Nigerian Defense Academy Air Vice Marshal Sunday Kelvin Aneke says maintaining optimal vision is essential for mission combat readiness, and by educating the personnel about glaucoma and providing access to screening services, it will assist tremendously.
We in the military do not take anything that has to do with the body medically, especially the eye, for joke.
The National Eye Center is raising awareness towards a future where glaucoma is no longer a threat to vision. Haruna Mohammed, NTA News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has intercepted drug consignments in a car and recovered huge amounts of tramadol pills. The agency has also destroyed over 3 tons of cannabis worth millions of naira. More on this from Salwa Khalil Ibrahim.
In its relentless fight against drug abuse and trafficking, operatives of the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) on patrol in Yanagua, Bayelsa State intercepted a motorcycle dispatch rider and recovered 200 grams of chin-chin produced with cannabis sativa, which was on a mission to be delivered to a buyer. A swift follow-up operation led to the arrest of the hairdresser who distributes the drugged chin-chin from the salon where she works. A search of the salon also led to the recovery of 3 kilograms, bringing the total weight of the illicit substance seized from the dough to 3.2 kilograms. Investigations revealed that they distribute the chin-chin often laced with cannabis and tramadol to students and at birthday parties. In the same vein, NDLEA operatives in Adamawa State on Wednesday, 13th March, arrested 2 suspects on its wanted list while on their way from Onitsha, Anambra State, where they had gone to buy a consignment of tramadol containing 14,428 pills of the opioid, which they tucked in the body compartment of their black Honda Civic car. They were nabbed along Newman Jalingo Road. Also recovered from them were 21 grams of cannabis and monetary exhibits totaling 19,280 naira. Similar arrests of different kinds of illicit substances were made in Osun, Ibadan, Bauchi, Kano, Nasarawa, Adamawa State and the Federal Capital Territory. In Abuja, Salwa Khalil, NTA News.
More on security. Troops of the Nigerian army have eliminated some terrorists in raids conducted in Kaduna and Katsina states. A statement by the Director of Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, says the troops also foiled a kidnap attempt at a primary school in Plateau State. Similarly, troops acting on intelligence successfully raided a terrorist hideout at Dutsen Kuda in the Batsari local government area of Katsina State and eliminated some terrorists after an exchange of fire. During the operations, military woodland camouflage uniforms, a ballistic helmet and several weapons were recovered. Cascading wealth creation using the Ramadan mechanics of stimulating food and wealth sharing among everyone is part of the submissions of speakers at the 21st Annual National Unity Lecture of Abuja Islamic Society, hinged on coping with the current challenges in the country. Tokwe Alabi reports that the Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, Salihu Abdul Hamid Dembos, was represented at the event.
Ramadan promotes unity and brotherhood, and sharing with the needy comes under the fear of Allah, with fasting also prescribed for all Muslim faithful during the season. Leveraging on this is the focus of this 21st Annual National Unity Ramadan Lecture, with the theme, Ramadan Coping with the Current Challenges.
For example, in the area of work, those that Allah has blessed, you can use your money for people and yet it will not reduce by 1 naira because it's an endowment.
By the time we are able to spread with what we have, the little that we share with those that did not have, the society will be a peaceful and a better place for everyone to live.
For the Director General, Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Salihu Abdul Hamid Dembos, represented by the Executive Director News, Ajo Adewuji, and the Comptroller General, Nigeria Customs Service, Bashir Adeniyi, the time has come for compassion and empathy towards the poor.
I would like us to always build faith in ensuring that positive change is possible. All we need to do is to do our bit as responsible Muslims and responsible Nigerians.
And the first amongst all of this is to ensure that when you are happy, your happiness is not complete when the person next to you is sad.
We are part of the program, and the program has been there for decades. It brings the unity of the Nigerians and the entire Muslims at large.
Government and leaders in the society and the businessmen in the society should open up and be able to accommodate more employees so that people can be able to feed themselves.
While Ramadan is a month of reflection, conversation at this National Unity Lecture wants Muslims to embrace and propagate global principles and traits in justice, freedom, purity, and compassion for the less privileged, irrespective of their faith. In Abuja, Tokwe Alabi, NTA News.
Time now to get the latest in the world of sports.
Let's begin with football, as Nigerian Taiwo Awoniyi has joined a growing list of players who could miss the friendlies against Ghana and Mali later this month in Morocco. Awoniyi missed Nottingham Forest 1-1 draw with Luton Town Saturday as a result of a reoccurring injury which has kept him in and out of Nuno Esperanto Santos' team. Also on the list is new call-up Gabriel Osho, who is currently battling to be fit for a Super Eagles debut. Meanwhile, Watford caretaker manager singled out Emmanuel Dennis for special praise after he shrugged off injury to score the match winner at Birmingham City. The Super Eagles winger pounced on the defensive lap in the 43rd minute to score what eventually proved to be the match winner. To the African Games in Ghana, Nigerians Pamela Bauer and Esther Oba ensured Team Nigeria returned with the bronze in beach volleyball, despite being relatively new to the sport. The youngsters secured the bronze in the women's double as they proudly shared the podium with Egypt and Madagascar. Similarly, Nigerians Marylove Edward and Oyilomo Quadri as both advanced into the round of 32 of the women's tennis single in Ghana. Meanwhile, Wilson Osalele Igbinovia is making the mark in Accra as the youngster has joined his compatriot Christopher Bulu in the next round after securing a win over Ethiopian's Yabat Kabedi in the round of 64 of the men's tennis single. And finally to tennis, as world number 1 Novak Djokovic has confirmed he will not be playing in next week's Miami's Open due to scheduling. The 24-time Grand Slam champions returned to play the early session of the U.S. hardcore swing in Indian Wells in California, only to suffer a shock third-round exit to lonely ranked Italian Lucas Nadi. Djokovic said after the defeat, he still planned to play in the Miami Open despite the loss, but that would not be possible. Djokovic's statement on Saturday gave no indication of where he next expected to play. With sports update, Oche Ngbede, NTA News.